Good evening, Wakefield. I'm going to call to order the Town Council meeting of December 16th, 2024 at 7:01 p.m. If everyone would please rise and join me in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. We have 6 counselors in attendance tonight. Counselor Butler is unable to join. Relative to item 4, public participation. Sherry, do we have some public participation tonight? I don't see anyone in the studio yet.
We do. We have someone by the name of Julie who has her hand raised.
Okay, are you going to bring Julie over?
Yeah, in the process of doing that now.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Julie, we can hear you. I believe you know the procedure, 3 minutes
Yes.
for public participation. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Julie Scott, Central Street. Thank you for the very easy sign, and it was very quick and efficient. Thanks for that. I'm asking that you all think about the ARPA fund discussion tonight and reflect on the actions behind the words surrounding the idea of the Albion Street Cultural Corridor. It's been in the works for well over 12 years. It's been a dream that we've all had. In 2017, MAPC published the Albion Arts Corridor Cultural Economic Development Strategy. Often stated is that this unfinished building and the area it sits in has been an economic driver for the community, but after more than a decade, that's not what the public has been experiencing. Very little in MAPC's now 8-year-old report in regard to the ACE building's function and development has taken hold. After more than a decade, the Albion Street Cultural Exchange building is far from functioning safely and accessibly, despite millions of ARPA funds being made available to the town. It's unfortunate that $400,000 of ARPA spending was spent to start yet another very expensive project planned behind the Warren School, despite the continued unfinished goals that could have been worked toward. We had used the town funds for some of the work toward the completion of this very small building located on a one-way street, well out of view of drivers driving Main Street while they are passing through town. The community deserves to know the status of the complaint that was made recently about the ACE building. The building department, the fire department, and the state fire marshal's office are dealing with years of lack of fire suppression in the building, I'm assuming. Suppression, when I looked it up, includes smoke detectors and other systems to detect smoke and heat, a system that triggers a fire alarm to alert people in the building, and a system that releases a suppression agent, such as gas or foam or chemical or liquid, to extinguish the fire. Maximum capacity has also been in the complaint, and due to this and other issues, no more than 47 people are allowed to use the building at one time. There were events held in the ACE building on both December 3rd and 4th, with 2 alcohol licenses voted on by the town council in November. I'm assuming that the event organizers knew about these safety issues and they themselves paid for the needed fire and other police details during the event. I hope that the numbers allowed in the building were complied with the number of 47 visitors at one time. I hope that the town is not charging for the use of this building because it's not as safely put together as it should be. What is the specific time frame that the building will be considered completely finished? And I hope that the building is closed until this issue or these issues and the building itself are made compliant. It's also not ADA compliant and needs an elevator. I've heard differing numbers for the elevator, between 250,000 and
Thank you, Ms. Scott. We are at the time.
okay, thank you.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you very much.
Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Do we have any other participants tonight, Sherry?
No, we do not. We're all set. Mike?
Yes, just curious, Town Administrator, do we normally read the other item that's in, or is that?
You certainly can, but it's in everyone's package. You just might want to mention that they received a
Right,
couple just to make sure
the
we
only
got it.
other item we did receive was from gentleman Vincent DeCecca, sorry if I mispronounced it, Vincent, and it was relative to the bike lanes on North Ave. Generally, he is opposed.
There's a second letter as well, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second letter in our package, Steve?
One from Anne Marie Gallivan.
Yes, yeah, there was also a letter from Anne Marie Galvin detailing some situations that resulted at the most recent farmers market, including one of the poles and its base being struck by a car and pushed into the road, and then I guess her husband was kind enough to move it back, but there were trucks going around it at that time and crossing the yellow line. So her email was basically also showed concern for safety over the bike lane and the poles. I believe that was all we had, Town Administrator, for this.
Yes. that's
In
all I
which
have.
case,
Yeah, that's
anything else, Sherry?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll then go on to presentations and updates, and as has been mentioned, the first item is American Rescue Act Plan, the ARPA update, and I don't believe we have a lot to do here, Town Administrator, but perhaps I can kick it over to you for a
Sure.
moment.
Sure. As the council is aware, is that two things need to happen, or I guess there's three things that need to happen with ARPA funds by December 31st, 2024. Either the money needs to be spent, which a lot of it has been spent. B, certain items need to be under contract to be spent, and they can be spent within the next 2 years, so December 31st, 2026 will be the witching hour for those amounts to be spent. And or C, a memorandum of understanding can be generated with either another department or another entity to make sure that funds have been, that funds will be spent in a certain way as prescribed by the town council. And as you may recall, we went through a lot of iterations on ARPA funds over the summer about how the council wanted to use them. So I will tell you, in the most part, everything is under contract, which is great. So there's no issues there. But I did want to bring up just one. I should say everything's under contract except for the MOUs, and we'll talk about them in a second. Is that there was some concerns regarding the lake path from Beacon to Lakeside Ave, lake path and drainage improvements. And the issue there is that the actual path, there was some concerns with the Conservation Commission about stone dust going into the lake and things like that. So although we will just do minimal work on the path and just smooth it out, and I've walked it a number of times, and I did not fall on that path. I've fallen on other places in town, but that one I actually maintained my balance, much to my wife's disbelief. So there will be some grooming there, and that came up to the Conservation Commission. However, the other areas on that path, there was a lot of drainage in both ends. If you need the drainage work that need to be done, make sure cars didn't go in. So that path behind Beacon Street is on from Beacon to Lakeside is all under contract with our on-call material and labors bid that we put out every few years. We're actually gonna put in some of the town drainage money to make that area much better, which will certainly help the lake in that path area. So that's all set. I just highlight that because there were some questions. Everything else, the sidewalks, things like that, are all under contract, out to bid, and ready to roll. And you'll see a lot of work done as soon as the weather breaks in the spring on the sidewalks. Particularly, there's a big project on the west side that we've worked with a lot of the neighbors on, which will really help mobility down towards the lake and North Ave. So pretty happy about that, and happy that that's gone. So that's that area. I can answer any other questions, Mr. Chairman, before you want to go into the MOUs.
I think I would just, by further explanation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, what the consideration here was for the town councilors, if they're not aware, is that when the town engineer went to the Conservation Commission and the work was changed a bit between that path, on the path between Beacon and Lake, there was a question as to whether there would be other unappropriated ARPA funds as a result of that. Turns out, when you look at what's in our package, the costs will actually exceed any ARPA funds that we had previously appropriated, which funds I understand the town does have.
All in the budget anyway.
In the budget in any event. So that was just to clear up that, that amount, 89,860, whatever it was, Councilor Chines is smiling, that amount is still spoken for.
Right.
So that was really the point of this exercise.
So there's no money left over, in other words.
Right,
Yeah.
no money left over, right. Yes, Councilor Chines.
I'm laughing a little bit because I believe Mr. Renault said, "Oh, I'm very confident we can get everything done within the 89,000." And I think there were a number of us who were a little suspicious that would actually happen. So I'm not surprised, but I do want to reinforce the drainage improvements that we are making in this area really are incredibly significant to the health and the quality of the lake. So I'm very glad that this is going forward, and I'm glad we've kind of worked through the logistics and some of the design elements with the Conservation Commission. I do think that this is sort of a very big net add, both from a recreational standpoint, but also very importantly from an ecological standpoint for the health of the
I
lake.
agree.
So glad to hear the update today.
Very good. You think it's time to move to the
I'm ready.
B item,
Yes.
memorandums of understanding? I know we've been over these before at previous meetings.
In previous meetings, so part of utilization of ARPA funds and, going through the exercise of making sure everything's spent by December 31st, 2024, the Treasury came out with regulations that allowed memorandums of understanding to be signed either with outside entities or actually departments. Like you could actually have a memorandum of understanding with the police department that you will spend ARPA funds on, I don't know, doing a proper speed check if you wanted to do that. You could set up that agreement. The town council wanted to make sure that some money went into housing, $200,000, and affordable housing, and that some money went into the Economic Development Council to help economic development in the town. Now, there is no way you would want to have all that money spent by the end of this year because it would be silly. You couldn't do those projects. And actually, in some instances, it may be not really under contract yet as you're going out for things, particularly in both instances. So what we can come up with, and Tom Mullen and I spent some time with this, working with, we went around and see what other communities are doing. I kind of pulled everything together with him, and I went to a number of seminars, which actually were pretty good in this case, telling how to do these things. So we have the Housing Trust, which has $200,000. That'll be used for affordable housing, and the Affordable Housing Trust has been meeting. They started out with a RAP program, Wakefield Rental Assistance Program, which is helping people get into rental properties in Wakefield. And it could be help with first and last month's rent. It could be help with security deposit. It could be help with moving expenses. And we actually have, I believe, 5 applications already that have been approved through the process. And this is life-altering for some of these people. We have one woman that's moving into an affordable unit in Wakefield, and she was actually in tears, didn't know how she was going to do it. So this is a real feel-good thing there. So, Tom Mullen and I, and Tom's away in New York City. He may walk in at any minute now. Tom Mullen and I put together these subawards or MOUs, one with the Affordable Housing Trust, that would allow us to kind of utilize that money over the next 2 years. And, but it does put certain requirements on the Housing Trust. One is to report monthly on the funds that have been used. And it'll actually be fairly easy for the committees. We don't put too much work on the committees because all the money runs through the town accountant anyway. town accountant has every one of these ARPA fund designations set up in a separate account. So you would look and see 200 in Housing Trust, you'd look and see $1 million in the Economic Development Council, less whatever's been paid out in both of it. Very easy to track, so there will be quarterly updates that will be worked on or presented to the Housing Trust and the Economic Development Council, and then they will then be presented to this board, so this board has an idea what's going on with that. That's kind of part and parcel of the approval process to make sure that we have this all ready to go if we were to get audited by the Treasury. These have been through before. Both boards, the Housing Trust and the Economic Development Council, have signed them. And I do need the council to sign them tonight, so they're legal by the end of the year. And I mean, one thing, it's limited to the purpose. So the housing area is limited to affordable housing. Thank you, Councilor Chines, for that pickup. And the for the sub-award for the Economic Development Council, that really whole list of items that the council talked about in our meetings, that's all listed in there, so it is going to be used for the development of business in Wakefield.
Have we voted these before, Town Administrator, or should
We have not.
have
I would
a-
need
we-
votes.
would
You
need
could
a
take them in
vote?
one vote if you'd like.
Sure. I'd entertain a motion that the town council sign the MOU for the Affordable Housing Trust.
So, I would move that we, the town council signs the memoranda for both the Affordable Housing Trust and Economic Development Council.
I second enthusiastically that combined motion.
Combined motion. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All opposed?
And I'll actually send those around for signature.
You were a yes there. Councilor
others.
Carney, you were a yes on that, weren't you?
Yes,
Okay, that's 6-0. Sherry, thank you very much.
just sign anyway.
Then we have
sign
the
it.
item C, Town Administrator, is the intermunicipal agreement, Regional Housing Services Office.
Yes.
We brought this up last meeting. I believe we discussed it a little bit further at the Housing Trust meeting, recent Housing Trust meeting. And I'm going to give it over to you for a few comments on that one.
You want comments from me?
I do.
Okay, sure. Okay. So the as,
Making you work tonight.
as part of the Affordable Housing Trust, the Affordable Housing Trust voted to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with a number of other communities around here to provide kind of housing and affordable housing management services for the entire region. This group will help monitor the SHI, our affordable housing index, and it'll be run through Reading. We're not paying Reading. Reading is just the conduit on this to kind of help with all these activities, and also in also looking at maybe rental services and helping us, identify renters and projects in the area through the MNRHOS, the Metro North Regional Housing Services Office. And we'll be working with Reading, North Reading, Wilmington, Saugus, and Woburn. This is basically the same sort of memorandum, intermunicipal agreement that we have on a lot of other areas that we've signed. It's almost exactly the same. It's gone through Town Council Mullen and the others, and I'd be looking for a vote to sign that tonight. I know that they discussed this at the Affordable Housing Trust meeting on last Tuesday or Wednesday night. I was downstairs in another meeting and couldn't make it upstairs, but I think maybe Mr. McLean can add what they spoke to about that there.
Right. We couldn't have you in two places at
I
once.
tried.
That night. I think this is a startup thing, this intermunicipal agreement where we all pay in $15,000, and I think it's generally a good idea. I think it lacks a little bit of form so far because they're still looking for which consultant they're going to use. On the other hand, the Affordable Housing Trust has approved the $15,000 kind of on a one-year basis, and I've also mentioned that the SHI list, for example, is the whole town's business. It's not just the Affordable Housing Trust business. But I think for this 1 year, it's probably good to kind of try it and see what services we get and see if we're, happy with what we get for our money. That being said, if there aren't a lot of questions or any questions, I guess I would entertain a motion that we sign and execute the intermunicipal agreement for the Regional Housing Services Office.
I move that we sign the intermunicipal agreement with the Regional Housing Services Offices as described.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Sherry, that is 6-0 for the record. Item D is the Galvin Solar contract. It's not too bad, it's 10 pages, it's a bit of a read. We've gone through a number of iterations on this. The most recent version is what was in the Govenda. The only difference really between it and the previous version you may have seen would be that the red lines are removed. The changes have been made. This has been reviewed by a number of people, most important of which is probably Councilor Mullen.
Right.
Town administrator has looked at it, I've looked at it, and we've dealt with it through a number of iterations over time. I think a couple of the interesting things to me in this contract, one is two, and it is that we actually have a commitment, whereas a contract will normally say these modules or equivalent, solar edge inverters or equivalent. The provider select was willing to say we will get exactly what was in the RFP, and that just made me feel a little bit better. Now, an equivalent product may exactly, maybe just that, maybe equivalent, but they have plenty in stock, and that's a good sign. So they know that they can get us the modules that were in the RFP as well as the solar edge inverters. We have an attached schedule. It seems like they're going to be ready to go pretty quickly. So I hope that they actually can beat this schedule and maybe even, we'll see, potentially get up there if weather permits over the vacation and get started. So this contract basically has the same price that we all agreed to at town meeting. We did squeeze the TV set out of the
Yeah.
out of the providers. That's not in the contract, but we're looking forward to having a TV monitor in real time. And we asked them whether they could provide it, and they graciously said that they would.
So the thought on that, Chair McLean thought it'd be great to have a TV monitor somewhere in the Galvin, so the kids could see how much, and the adults could see how much energy is being created, how much is being savings. I think it's a really a great little feature, and so they kind of went back and forth on that, and finally we'll do it for you. So
that was just a small kicker.
Yeah.
But basically, this contract matches everything that we had agreed to on the vote at town meeting.
It exactly was was refreshing to see that it was actually very close to the exactly from the RFP. That doesn't always happen when they come in. It's always a little bit of tweaking, it seems, but this was really right on. So
right,
happy.
and that's another reason why I wouldn't want to take too much time to sign it. Prices change and so on and so forth, and right now it looks like everything's running along very smoothly, cost-wise, and we don't have any indication that they're anything other than excited to get started.
I'm actually hoping they get there during the winter break.
I think that would be
The
fantastic.
kids out there.
That would be fantastic. Yes, Councilor Chines.
So just a quick question. So they do have the actual panels like in inventory
Yes.
right now?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
Um, Just
they
thinking
had
of the
indicated
potential
to
for
us-
tariffs coming up.
Yeah.
Right, they had
it's great.
indicated to us that they had megawatts in their
Good.
warehouse.
Yeah.
And this isn't megawatts.
Yeah.
And like I say, we're getting the ones that they initially quoted, which I felt comfortable with, having done the due diligence on those companies. And the brains is the inverter, so the Solar Edge is what will be set. Solar Edge inverters, that's where you get the TV link
Yep.
up, right? And you get that in real time.
Yeah.
That's really something.
No, I will say, I mean, I have solar panels on my house with the
Right.
Solar Edge.
I'm not telling you anything you
system.
don't know then.
No, but it is cool, and you literally can see in real time
Right.
exactly what's there. And so for an
You
installation
probably have it on your
this
phone.
size,
Do you have it on your phone?
I have an app on my phone, yeah. But for an
There you go.
installation this size, I think it's great that
Yeah.
we'll have the information available.
Right. Any other questions from counselors? Counselor Butt?
Do we know how long it'll take to install?
We're hoping to have this operational like end of the school year, if not earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe
Like
the contract, the construction schedule currently goes out to something like June 30th.
Yeah.
But I've had every indication from this provider that they want to get this done quicker. And the quicker they get it done, the quicker we get the kilowatts as the sun strengthens in the spring and summer.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess I think that's great. The sooner the better. I would just talk with the principal and
The superintendent is all on board and very excited.
great.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to disrupt any
Yeah.
sort of learning. So, I don't know if it's over vacations is great, weekends is great, nights is great. But I wouldn't want it to be really disruptive for the students there.
yeah, town employees have already been very active with not just the superintendent of schools, but also Galvin staff in terms of the staging and what area is available. And, the amount of noise we're told is not going to be great. And obviously, if it's during vacation, then it's even less of an issue.
What's great is that the conduits are already there, going from the roof down into the building, so that would be a big issue.
Yeah.
But that's already been built that way, so it's
Great.
great.
Thank you.
Sure. Counselor Carney?
Was that in anticipation of?
We made it solar ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, it was actually advertised as such when built. Any other questions from the council? I believe on this one, Town Administrator, I would ask for a motion, assuming I'm trusted, that the chair can
Authorize the chair to sign.
authorize the chair to execute the contract. Happy to have all 7 of us sign. It's just a little bit easier when we get to the final. Want to make sure that Tom Mullen takes one more look at this. And I've noticed a couple of periods that need to be removed, but nothing beyond that. So I would entertain a motion that I be allowed as chair to execute the contract.
So I would move that the chair be allowed to sign the final version of the Select Energy contract pending final review by Town Council Mullen.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's 6-0. Sherry? And if we move to appointments, we have potential appointments for the Permanent Building Committee. We have 3 for a 3-year term, and we have recommendations. Can I ask you for a summary, Town Administrator?
Sure, like we advertised this, and 2 of the sitting members did reapply. And then I think, Joe Bertrand, the chair, did give us a recommendation, recommending John McDonald, who is on the committee now, recommended a Christina Gabriel due to a construction experience, and also hope that the town council would allow him to continue to serve the town and see the high school project completed, as he is the chair.
Yeah, I just have to say,
I think it was great to get a number of people.
my
applied, which is
goodness,
really good.
extremely
Yeah.
impressive resumes, too, all the way around. Counselor Chines?
No, I just wanted to add, as the liaison to the Permanent Building Committee, I am supportive of the recommendation, first of all, of the candidates who applied. It was a great pool of candidates. I think Ms. Gabriel would be a good addition because of the construction
Right.
background, and actually does replace someone who's rolling off who has some similar experience in architecture and construction management. So I think it's a good fit. I also do want to say, Joe Bertrand and John McDonald as reapplicants are phenomenal members of the building committee. Between Joe's legal background, John's financial background, and just the wealth of experience that they bring, obviously, we're in the midst of, probably the biggest building project we'll ever undertake, and I think having them serve on the committee, continue to serve for another 3 years is really to our benefit. So I'm supportive of Mr. Bertrand's recommendation of Christina and John, and supportive of his humble request to continue serving as well.
Any other questions or comments from town councilors? Councilor Dombrowski?
I would just add that Joe Bertrand has been involved with a number of projects here, including the public safety building, and I think he did a very good job seeing that through. And John McDonald has always been, I think, a phenomenal asset for this committee. And I do like the gender representation of Ms. Gabriel, in addition to her construction background. I think that's also welcome on a committee that I think has predominantly been male appointees. So I think it's nice to have that balance too.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I could entertain a motion to reappoint for 3-year terms John McDonald and Joe Bertrand, and appoint for a 3-year term. These are all 3, right? Christina, Chrissy, Gabriel.
So I move that we reappoint Joe Bertrand, John McDonald to the Permanent Building Committee, and we appoint Christina Gabriel as its newest member, with our thanks.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Carney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Sherry, that is 6-0 for the Permanent Building Committee. Next up, Town Council 40A Subcommittee, near and dear to my heart. This is going to be a dissolution vote expected, except for one thing. To avoid an infinite loop, as we say in the computer industry, we are hopeful that we will be allowed here to approve our final minutes. Otherwise, we'll have to have another meeting.
And if we dissolve before we have another meeting, then that doesn't work.
And then if we dissolve before the other meeting, we won't get to the minutes. So we've kind of put our heads together on this, and we figured that perhaps of the 3 present members, all being here from the subcommittee, that I might entertain a motion from the subcommittee members to approve our final minutes of, do you have a date for me, Steve?
November 7th.
November
2024.
7th, 2024.
So I move that we approve the meeting minutes of November 7th, 2024.
Second.
And seconded by Counselor Vincent. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I think it's
Oh,
just the
sorry,
second.
sorry. I
We'll
jumped the
let-
gun.
we'll let you
Sorry.
abstain.
I think it would be very appropriate for the other 3 to abstain.
Yes, sorry.
So that's a 3-0 vote, Sherry, from the subcommittee members. And the only item really left to do on 40A, for us anyway, is a vote to, this would be of the entire council,
Right.
to dissolve the Town Council 40A subcommittee.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think, it has to be said that the subcommittee did a phenomenal job. And I was impressed what happened at town meeting, and I thought the public did respond. That's the reason they showed up at town meeting, and I think the subcommittee deserves credit for that. And thank you.
Thank you very much for those kind words. Counselor Vincent.
Thank you, Chair McLean. Thank you for those kind comments as well. We've previously thanked the town officials who worked on this project, and I think it's important to thank them again. Steve Mayo, Tom Mullen, Sherry Dalton, Jen McDonald, Aaron Kakinda, Bill Renault, and especially the hard work that Sam Elliott did on this project. Since the subcommittee is dissolving tonight, I did want to tell Chair McLean and Vice Chairman Dombrowski that it was my privilege to serve with both of you on this subcommittee all summer long. Your commitment to our community is outstanding. And the other thing I wanted to know about Chair McLean, I noticed recently he started serving as our chair in May. While he served as our chair of the town council, he simultaneously served as the chair of the MBTA 40A subcommittee, served as the town council representative on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees, and was the major proponent on the solar panels on the Galvin Middle School roof. I just wanted to say, well done, sir.
Thank you
I
very
don't have
much,
anything else.
Counselor, for those kind comments. Seeing nothing further, I would entertain a motion to dissolve the Town Council 48 Subcommittee.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
And seconded by Counselor Chines. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Sherry, that is 6-0. The subcommittee is dissolved. Item 9, we have licenses tonight. We have a few of them, and we have more than a few of them in B, right, Town Administrator?
Yes,
Yes.
quite a few.
We'll start with A, the common victualler and entertainment license for Ellie's Pizza, Wakefield, located at 21 Princess Street. Sherry, I believe everything's in order for all of our license renewals?
Yes, everything is in order, and for that one you're speaking about now, that is the only one for 2024. The rest are for 2025. So Ellie's is for 2024, a new license, and then it will also be a renewal under the 2025 licenses.
Thank you for that clarification.
So I would move that we approve the common victualer's license for Ellie's Pizza and extend a warm welcome to them, to our community.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Chines. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Then that carries. Sherry, 6-0. We have a number of license renewals in B. Perhaps I can
Sure.
ask you for your opinion on those.
Well, we certainly can take them all under one vote. I think you'll all be very happy about that.
That's good. That's
We
good.
will, in the minutes, will show that they were recorded separately, which we've done in the past as well. These are for all renewals for 2025. I do want to remind the board, because I think you all know, and maybe I don't think the entire public knows, is that Sherry's done a great job in setting up, working with a software provider for our licensing, new applications and license renewals. And what happens is when you apply for a license, you go into the portal. I know we hate this electronic age, but the portal, what we call it. So once you put in whether it's a common victualler license, which we're going to do first, well, it's first in the list here, entertainment licenses, liquor license renewals, whether you're a restaurant, an inn holder, or a club, package stores, as we call them, lodging houses, fortune teller, we have one of those. They should know what we're going to vote before we do it. I don't want to miss my
waiting
vote.
for that,
I don't want to miss that. Automated devices license, Class 1 and Class 2 auto licenses, is that when an applicant applies in the portal, okay, then it creates a kind of a tree that goes to every department. It goes to police, it goes to fire, it goes to building, it goes to health, it goes to the tax collector's office, okay? Where each, it goes to my office as well, where each discipline can actually has to okay that license or it can't move forward, okay? So the police know everything, the fire knows everything, health knows everything. Tax collector knows, because we have had a number of cases where some of our licensees were not up on their taxes, and that really is a nice little incentive for them to come in and pay those back taxes, and that works out really well in many instances. So a lot of work goes on behind the scenes here, and we start this, or Sherry starts this in September or October to get people moving and make sure they get everything in. So a lot of work goes on this, and a lot of offices are involved to make sure that the public is protected, the product is being forwarded, and that the businesses are paying the taxes that they should be doing. So you can rest assured that this has gone through a number of different eyes before it gets to this point here. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would point out further that, having been questioned on some of this, that if it's not in our agenda, all somebody has to do is click on the meeting materials.
Right.
Because it is, all 73 pages today are right there on the meeting materials. We try to be as absolutely transparent on this council as we can. And I thank you for that, and I thank Sherry for all the work she does on these as well. So I would entertain a blanket motion to approve our 2025 license renewals.
Actually, I just have one issue.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Mayo. Steve, I noticed that the last one on the list here for the common victular license, the WXSS LLC doing business as Way Asian Cuisine.
Yes.
That's 21 Broadway. They
Yes.
had come before us several months ago. That used to be Bamboo House, and
Yeah.
they were with council at the time.
Right.
And I specifically raised the issue of the signage that they have to put up. They have put up a backlit like light box sign, which is not allowed. And they have like a new, sign in there. It's like basically a slide in, if you will. But it's not appropriate. It's not allowed. It's not allowed. And I raised it at the time, and their attorney seemed to understand that that's something that they can't be doing. So I'm reluctant to approve their license with them not being in compliance on that.
Yeah, I know that they went into an existing area. They really refurbished the whole place. It's really pretty cool inside.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
not the
but
sign.
I can certainly talk to their attorney about
So
that.
I would rather withhold approving that
No,
until
I would suggest we don't, because you won't meet, and then we're gonna shut them down on New Year's Day.
It's just I don't know how that would have gotten through building, because that and I'm seeing that more and more, where it seems like between the amount of glass that's covered with signage or signs that are non-compliant, I don't know what's not being properly communicated, but this in particular really struck me because they were before us, and I raised this point specifically as to not have that issue, and then I saw that that's what was
I
dropped
can
into
certainly
that.
follow up on that.
If you could.
Yep.
I'm assuming, I know Tom's not here, but I'm assuming these licenses can also be revoked at any point by us.
I would assume so, yeah.
So I would ask that you relay that, but I do think there should be an awareness and a consequence if they don't come into compliance with this.
Way Asian.
Okay, so do you want me? I'll just break them down by category. Is that-
If you can do one blanket motion
I
for
think
the
we can
whole.
do one, but hang on a second, Counselor Carney, but one other thing I want to ask you before, I recognize Counselor Carney is are you talking about maybe then approving them subject to? So they're not shut down by the end of the year, or are you thinking of taking them out?
Well, I don't want them to be shut down, but I also want them to be in
Right.
compliance. So
Right.
they need to I think they, within a reasonable period of time, they can come into compliance.
I will
or
follow
we-
up on them
Or
tomorrow.
we're gonna
Yeah.
revisit this.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
in which case, we could revoke it for 25 even after we've granted it, is my point.
Okay. Counselor Carney?
Yeah, Sherry, I have a question, the fact that on the liquor license renewals, some of these are just beer and wine, I believe, and some are full liquor license?
I'm sorry, was that directed to me?
Yes, it was, Sherry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you repeat that, John?
Some of these are just beer and wine licenses, I believe, and some are full liquors.
All the liquor licenses should be there. The restaurants, the package stores, the beer and wine.
But on the liquor license renewals for restaurants, some are just beer and wine, aren't they?
If they're just beer and wine, they're listed as beer and wine
Okay.
on the on my sheet there.
Okay, all right, so as long as it's on the, we're not changing anything here. No, it's
No.
fine, thank you.
No.
No,
All right, so I would move that we approve the slate of 2025 common victular license renewals, 2025 entertainment license renewals, 2025 liquor license renewals for restaurants, for license renewals for in-holder, license renewals for clubs, license renewals for package stores, lodging house license renewals, fortune teller license renewals. Steve, they knew that was coming.
I knew it was coming.
2025 automated device license renewals, 2025 Class 1 renewals, 2025 Class 2 renewals, as listed in the packet and available online.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any further questions from the council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Sherry, that's 6-0. Our next item is a one-day liquor license for a fundraising event for the Wakefield Boys and Girls High School Hockey on January 31st, 2025 at the AmeriCal Civic Center.
So I would move that we approve the one-day liquor license submitted by the Boys and Girls Club for the one-day, for the date as described with, that would be on the 31st of January.
It's actually high school hockey.
High school hockey, excuse me, with our best wishes for a successful event.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Sherry, that is 6-0 for item 9C. Item 10, donations. We have a $325 donation to the Council on Aging. Would request a motion to approve with thanks.
I move that we accept and approve the donation of $325 to the Council on Aging with our thanks.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Sherry, that is 6-0. We have a gift proposed from the Friends of Wakefield Tennis, $1,270.50 for tennis nets at the Dobbins Court, with thanks to Mr. Conley, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Allard, and all the other friends who didn't appear mentioned in the letter.
I move that we accept the donation to the Friends of Wakefield Tennis as described in the amount of $1,270.50.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Sherry, that is 6-0. And we have a proposed donation to the Wakefield Fire Department. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that one, Town Administrator? You don't have to. But
Let me get caught up to speed. I read it a while ago. If you
I'm
could
just
do it-
flying along here
I
today.
know, you're way ahead of me. Well, this is from the 200 Corner Powered Ave to the Wakefield Fire Department. It's a great gift to them regarding fire blankets and vehicle plugs and Pierce nozzle systems. This is probably $8,000 to $10,000 worth of equipment that Chief Sullivan and Captain Shinny met with Callahan Construction and asked them for a little bit of help. So I think it's great, and they are going very quickly there too. If you notice the building process.
Indeed, and I'm very excited about the idea that they're donating specific equipment for fighting electric vehicle fires, because this is something that, copious amounts of water may not be the
Right.
best thing to use, from what I've heard through various
What we've
firefighters.
experienced as
But
well.
we've experienced, as have other communities. So this is a very generous and I think thoughtful donation list. Would consider a motion to accept the donation to the Wakefield Fire Department.
I would move that we accept the donation to the Wakefield Fire Department as described in our packets available online.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any further discussion by the council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Sherry, that is also 6-0. And thanks for those donations, all of them. We have under item 11A, we have the town council minutes of November 18th, 2024 that were in our packet. Would entertain a motion.
I'd move that we approve the town council meeting minutes from November 18th, 2024, with thanks to our clerk, Ms. Dalton.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Sherry, that's 6-0. I believe we've already dealt with 11B, the 40A subcommittee minutes, because we took them out of order for good reason. Which brings us to item 12, which is announcements. I'll start by saying that the Race Across America was a very, very, as usual, successful and moving experience. We, year after year, meet or exceed our goal in wreaths, which I think shows the commitment of the citizens of Wakefield to our veterans, past, present, and future. I attended along with Vice Chair Dombrowski and Councilor Vincent, and it was very, very moving and thoughtful experience. That's it for my announcements. Any other announcements from the council today? Councilor Vincent.
Thank you, Chair McLean. The Veterans Coffee Social is Saturday, December 21st at 11:30 at the Senior Center. The Sons and Daughters of Italy are going to be serving the veterans with meals. Since I'm a member of the Sons and Daughters of Italy, and I'm a veteran, I guess I will be serving myself. But there's a special guest appearance that day, and it's not Santa Claus. Actually, my daughter will be in town, and she has volunteered to sing for the veterans at the event. I also want to note that I had the privilege of hosting the Americal Division flag unveiling ceremony on December 6th in the lobby of the Americal Civic Center. I just want to publicly thank the following town officials for assisting me in preparing for the event. Steve Mayo, our town administrator, who's sending a thank you note to the Americal Division Veterans Association for the generous donation of the flag. Paul Cancelleri, the chair of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board, Dave Mangan, Wakefield Veterans Service Officer, Dan McGrath, the Recreation Director, and Jen McDonald, the Communications Director. I also want to note that we had 4 guests that we asked to actually do the unveiling for us. I think it's important to note who they are. One is Charlie Deniso. He's a 97-year-old World War II veteran and lifelong Wakefield resident. He served in the United States Merchant Marine, and after his honorable discharge in 1944, continued to serve during the Second World War with the U.S. Army. We had Sergeant Major Chris Olson with the 1st Battalion, 182nd Infantry Regiment of the Massachusetts National Guard. That was one of the battalions that was one of the first assigned to the Americal Division during the Second World War. We have Dave Mangan, our Veteran Service Officer for Wakefield and an Air Force veteran. And then a surprise person who found out that we were going to be doing this unveiling and contacted us, Brigadier General Len Kondrachuk, U.S. Army retired, military historian, and the director of the Veteran Services Military Division, Office of the Adjutant General, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He asked if he could come out. Then I asked him if he would do the honor of being part of the unveiling, and he generously did so, and then he gave us some history about the Americal Division and the Americal Division flag. So it was a well-attended event, and I sincerely thank the town staff for helping me host the unveiling. Thank you, Chairman McLean.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Chines?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. First thing I did want to mention is we have another milestone of sorts in the high school building project coming up later this week. We'll be having our topping off ceremony on Friday at 10 a.m. So topping off is sort of the ceremonial placement of the last structural steel beam at the building. And, you know, if you look at the structure that's behind us, it's amazing sort of what's risen up from, you know, a lot of piles of dirt on the ground. And so the crew continues to do great work. Along with the Permanent Building Committee in terms of overseeing it. We are running ever so slightly ahead of schedule, and so the challenge will be for our reappointed Permanent Building Committee members to keep that up, but obviously weather permitting as we go. So really excited about that. A couple of other holiday events coming up. The annual town menorah lighting is scheduled for the 29th of December. At 4 o'clock on the Common. That's always a really great event and a really wonderful celebration. Hope people can make it to that. And if you happen to be out and about in town on this Thursday night, you might see Santa being pulled in his sleigh by a couple of really strong, dedicated reindeer. I think we might have a few of those reindeer on the council right now. But that is to support the Boys and Girls Club and the work that they do to bring holiday presents to families in need. It's a lot of fun. I know a few of us, myself, Councilor Dombrowski, Councilor Vincent, have participated in the past, and hope people come out and cheer along Santa as he goes. And then finally, just wanted to mention I will have office hours this Wednesday at 6:30 at the library, so come by and say hello, and wish everyone a happy holidays.
And if you need some energy, Thursday before you pull sleigh, there's a tasty ribbon cutting ceremony, I believe that very same day.
That's right.
Life Love Cheese on Water Street, which is already open. I was there Saturday. Beautiful old shop. And they've been in here with us before and been at the farmer's market. And they were doing quite a good business on Saturday when I was there. So we have that ribbon cutting ceremony at 3:45 if you're available. I know it's a very busy time of the year, and there are a number of things to attend. Any other, Councilor Carney?
Yeah, I believe everybody was copied on a letter from, an email, excuse me, from the Environmental Sustainability Committee in regards to a complaint about an open meeting issue. And I just want to let you know, when the chair asked me what committees I wanted to serve on, I think I was pretty open.
Yep, you were.
And I think this committee is trying to do a great job. I think they're trying to participate in the right way. They got off on the wrong path, but they're not the ones who changed the language in the town, public documents. They're trying to do things and they're discussing things. And I think they should be allowed to openly discuss matters without getting beaten up by people who are sitting there and taking advantage of our open meeting and public participation rules. And I just want to bring that up. I've been working with them. They're nice people, and we're trying to do things, and so they discuss things at their meeting. If all of us, they can't do anything with most of the stuff, but they're talking about ways in which they can try to help the community and move forward on some of these issues. So, to have the public participation rule used to kind of beat people up and take, I think we're going to lose people. People aren't going to serve any longer. So I just want to bring that up. I think the chairman, Tiana, is doing a great job. I've been communicating with her right along. And there are a couple of things that we're working on. We're not ready to do anything with it, but they're trying to do a good job. And I just wanted to recognize that for the fact that bad news goes around quickly, and they're being beat up on a number of fronts, and I don't think it's been right. So I just want to speak up for them.
I appreciate that. I agree with you. I think Tiana's doing a great job. And I think that, there's been a real heightened scrutiny of all boards and committees this year. And to an extent, I welcome it, but to an extent, it can go too far. Because it seems like some folks think that anything we do is wrong. And, there's always some ulterior motive, and there's not. We're volunteers. We're all doing the best we can. And I believe they're doing the same. Thank you, Counselor, for that comment. Any other announcements? Counselor Dombrowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to echo Chairman McLean's comments about the wreaths across America. There were 440 wreaths that were laid at Forest Glade Cemetery on Saturday. It's a beautiful ceremony every year, and it really reminds you of the impact of service, certainly on the service member, but also that service member's family. And it was cross-generational. We had, I think, maybe a 3-year-old and probably a 93-year-old, there, and it's just a really wonderful event. So congratulations to the Veterans Advisory Board, who always does such a great job, and the Scouts are always a big part of that as well. It's just a really important ceremony, and it's absolutely beautiful to see. If you have the chance to swing by Forest Glade to check it out, please, I encourage you to do so. Also, just wanted to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays to everyone, and a Happy New Year as well. The next time we'll all be meeting as a group will be in 2025, so I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Seeing none, item 13, matters not anticipated for the agenda. Councilor Dombrowski.
I do have one for that. So I wanted to raise this, not knowing how best to proceed with it, but I did want to address it as an issue because it has come up just especially as of late. As all of us know, and I imagine most people watching, we have had these bike lanes installed on North Avenue along with the poles that have gone in relative to that. There has been, from my perspective, a pretty significant community response. I can say anecdotally, personally, what I've observed, because I travel that route many times a day, a UPS truck was stopped making a delivery, as they often do on there, and about 27 cars backed up. A dump truck that just was on the line because they were going southbound, and dump trucks are wide. Someone who was on a motorized scooter at night going southbound in what is now, I think, probably like a 6 to 8 inch shoulder on the southbound direction. Emergency vehicles having delayed response times. That's something that we heard about beforehand, and that's something that we're seeing now. as well. And that's not to include things like the trash pickups, which obviously happen, I think on that street it's Mondays, I believe, at least on the west side is Mondays, and the kind of impact it has there. And we just, one of the submissions we have relates to the farmers market that was a one-off this weekend because the farmers market was closed, but it was a holiday market just this weekend. But it was our first experience with that, and it was an absolute disaster. Again, one of these poles got hit. It then was in the road. It then became an obstruction for other vehicles. Cars couldn't get around it. Cars were driving into it. Cars were getting damaged as a result of that. And this is on, Saturday, 10 days before Christmas. A lot of traffic, obviously. And we know how the farmers market is on Saturdays generally, throughout the season. So I think it's a real concern. I think we have a real safety concern here. I don't know that all of these, I'll call them unintended or unanticipated consequences, would bear out as they are, but we're already seeing it. If you look at the polls now, they're already askew, either because they're being hit or I don't know exactly what's going on with that. And I have yet to see a biker in the bike lane, with all of this said. So I don't know what it is we should be doing as a council now. I do understand that the polls are set to come down at some point in time, but I am very reluctant to have those polls put back up, just given the current state of what we've observed and what we've been hearing about thus far. We are creating a dangerous situation on North Avenue, and the idea that we're doing this for the sake of bike safety, as some members of this council have advanced, I don't think that the trade-off has been considered sufficiently by those who have supported this bike lane and these polls. There is no margin for error. We currently, are dealing with narrow lanes, and there's no margin. If there's an emergency vehicle behind you, you can't just pull off to the side. People say that. Those poles are actually, quite close to one another. It's very difficult, and plus motorists don't know what to do. And any emergency motorists don't know what to do. While the lanes had been wider before, and some would say, okay, they're wider than they needed to be, they provided that buffer. So when the UPS truck is there, cars that are lining up can safely go around it, can see around. We don't have that now. So we've created, I think, a greater a greater safety issue on the southbound side because we have no shoulder there now, ostensibly. I think we've created a significant issue on the northbound side that has already, borne itself out just this past weekend alone. And I think that we need to do something to be able to address this at this point in time. And I raise it again. I realize it's not an agenda item. It's been something that's obviously been culminating, and they've not been there that long. But the Saturday issue was especially concerning. That was harrowing for a lot of folks who were trying to make use of the farmers market to just get through there. But we have to stop this. We can't continue to be creating these obstacles for people to be able to just get around and travel. It's hard enough to make your way around many of the streets in this town. Why are we making it more difficult at this point? We're creating safety issues. We're creating emergency first responder issues now. And I think everyone knows my position relative to this bike lane and these poles. But that aside, this is a whole different level we're talking about. I don't support them, but I am especially concerned about what they have now created unnecessarily so. So I don't know what we can do or should do at this point. I'd like to, I guess at a minimum, see the poles removed without further delay. I suppose at this point, they were there to try to get some community response. I think it's not even so, we're getting a lot of feedback from folks, obviously, but more than that, we're actually seeing it in action. We're seeing what happens with these poles. They're getting hit. They're getting pushed into the roadway, and people don't know how to react to that. Candidly, I don't know how I would react to that if there was a pole that's just sticking up there in already very narrow lanes. We have very little margin for error, and we're setting ourselves up for really unsafe road conditions for our residents and visitors.
I think in general, the thought town administrator has been that, while the weather was still good, people would get a chance to experience this. We certainly, I think, have all been thinking, they would come down as the weather changed. The weather that, needs to be right away for safety concerns. You know my opinion on these matters as well, but whether, whether that needs to be right away, whether we should give it another week or so until we get into some snow, that to me is an open question. And Councilor Carney.
Yeah, I think we wanted this to happen, to set an example, to try to test the water. And I agree with Councilor Dombrowski. It's a mess up there. It's a mess. And it's not, we're not going to turn this into an Amsterdam or make this such a bike-friendly thing that everybody's going to be comfortable. People who would normally drive in both directions, and I do drive the lake on a bike, okay? And I've seen people coming the opposite direction on the other side of the road. That's impossible. That's very dangerous. You can't do that unless you're on the sidewalk. And so, what we've done is created something for a small group of people. I don't believe, and another part of our public participation situation is where all of a sudden this comes up and people are encouraged to call us. So who are going to call us? The friends of the biking community. And they're the ones who are advocating this. But otherwise, the people aren't using it. So I honestly believe we made a mistake, but I don't think we have the votes right now, Ed, to be honest with you. I think we're going to take them down now, and we've got an election coming up, and this is going to be, I believe it's going to be an issue in that election. So play it out that way. That's the bottom line. We're probably not going to get them up, not too close to the election time. But I think it's a dangerous situation. I don't think it's the right place for it at all. And I was very much in favor of that traffic, the small contract we got there for measuring traffic, because in a situation where there is a backup, people who would normally be directed to North Ave are not going to be directed to North Ave anymore. They're going to be directed to Main Street. And I'm not sure Main Street can take all that traffic, because normally some of the trucking truck patterns are to go down North Ave and not to come down to Main Street or 129 Circle. So now they're going to go down to, Main Street and then Lowell Street. So I honestly think it's been a bad decision for the town. Lowell Street is the only street in the town that parallels 128 and takes a hit every time 128 is backed up. A bad hit. I live on a corner. I live on Lowell Street. I see it. When my wife and I measure where we're going to go and how we're going to go there by looking at the traffic going by our house. All right? So I've lived it. But bottom line is, it's going to get worse because less options when people are using Waze and Google to travel in a south or northerly direction when 128 is a bad accident. So it's just not good. The things you're not going to change around Wakefield. And years ago, I was involved, and you see these signs, the trucking route around Wakefield. I still have my PowerPoint that I presented to recommend to people, because it's unusual to have a trucking industry in the middle of your town. There's nothing we can do about it. It's a very strong tax base there. We had a gentleman up here, we were talking about the property on Water Street. He owns a huge building down on New Salem Street, okay? It's a tax base, and there's some good businesses down there. It's right in the middle of our community. That's unusual, okay? There's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing we can do about the fact that Lowell Street is 128A, okay? In either direction. We've actually had situations where we have traffic going south, and they're getting off on Route 1, traveling all the way down Salem Street to Lowell Street to bypass a backup of traffic. You can't change the character of the community by saying we're putting bike lanes in. It just can't happen that way. I think sooner or later, I think the people are going to come to judgment on this one, but I think we have to wait and see what happens.
I'll be the first to say I wanted to, because I did not, but certain members of this council voted for the polls. I wanted to have them up this fall to be able for people to experience this, and this is exactly why, I think certain of us wanted to have them up this fall so that people could experience it. I think that when they come down, we'll have a safer condition for the winter. But I say this, I don't want people to be under any illusions here that if they're under the current composition of how this board is voted, they're going back up in the spring based upon the majority of this board. It was certainly not unanimous, but at this point, that's where we're at. I think it's a very bad idea for these to go back up in the spring. I think that they are dangerous. I think they're creating obstacles for motor vehiclists, and I do not think it makes any biker safer. candidly. And so I have significant concerns about what we've experienced thus far. There have been too many events in too short a period of time. And these are lived experiences, which is, it's one thing to theoretically talk about how something looks on paper or look at designs. It's another thing when these are in action, and this was a very bad decision. I've not supported it, but regardless, I think that it's a significant safety issue now, and I think that we all have to heed that.
Councilor Vincent.
Thank you, Chair McLean. Just a couple of viewpoints. When we voted on this in the summer, the expectation was that the polls would come in the September, October timeframe, and they would be up from anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks, and they would come down in mid-November. Then unfortunately, there was a delay in delivery of the polls, and they ended up going up much later than mid-November. So personally, I have no problem whatsoever with taking them down now, today, because it was my understanding when I voted in favor of this last summer that they were going to only be up during the fall and be down by mid-November. So since we're on December 16th, that's a month after I originally thought they were going to be taken down, as we talked with Mr. Renault last summer. The other reason that I voted in favor of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayo, and I know I consulted with both the police and fire chief last week, is because they were in favor of putting the flex poles up. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I talked with both of them last week after the polls went up and said, has your recommendation changed? And they both told me to stay the course for now so we can continue to evaluate the situation. And as I said a few weeks ago on another issue, the advice of subject matter experts is critically important to me. It's not determinative, but it's very important to me. And I rely extensively on what the police and fire chief tell me on an issue like this. So all that said, I have no problems at all if the polls came down today, and then the town council can make a decision in the spring, which is what we thought about this summer. They'd be up until mid-November, they'd come down, and then in the spring, there'd be another discussion as to whether they'd go back up after we can evaluate what it was like while it was up in the fall. So if somebody wants to move to take them down today, I will certainly agree with that, because it was my understanding they wouldn't be up on December 16th of 2024. Thank you.
Well, I will add, though, Councilor Vincent, that things changed, and the lane painting wasn't done until it was done. And they were in storage for a period of time that I didn't even know about, even though this council in September had voted to put them up. So my feeling is, especially if the subject matter experts, with whom I disagree on this particular point, although I greatly respect all of them in police and fire, if their feeling is we should have more of a time to test it out, I would actually think it's better to leave it up until the snow flies. We're going to get a report that one of these days it's not going to be 50 degrees or 10, 12 degrees overnight with no snow, and that then we should have the DPW go out and yank them, because they can do it like that. But I wanted the public to experience this, and I pushed to have it done for this reason, because this council voted in September with one abstention to put them up and let the people see. And I know that there's a lot of chatter out there. I know there's a lot on social media. I know that one proponent has said maybe somebody is trying to stir up trouble. How can we be stirring things up by doing what we were requested to do and what we voted to do? We voted to put them up, even those of us who disagreed. We wanted the people to see what it is. I don't think it's as safe. You all know my opinion, but I want to be wrong on this one. I really want to be wrong on this one. I want it to work so that we can have that bike lane and not have a problem. But when I see concrete pumpers screaming down that road, barely fitting, when I see car carrying trucks, when I see the mail truck, which also stops to make deliveries, and every time somebody stops, or as Ms. Galvin said in her email, an ambulance has to go more slowly because, as pointed out by Councilor Dombrowski, I don't know what to do if I'm in that lane, and now I have a vehicle behind me and I've got this lane over here and that's a protected bike lane. All she said about that ambulance was that it just had to proceed along more slowly. These are safety issues, and I'm hoping we don't have a serious crash there as opposed to, somebody hitting a pole. And I'm hoping somebody doesn't hit a pole into a bicyclist in nicer weather. But those are narrow lanes. I think we should leave them up, let the public experience what they're experiencing, whether they like it or not. And then we'll have our experts, our police and fire will have a little more to go on when it comes back to this council in the spring. And to Councilor Dombrowski's point, maybe we put it on an agenda at that point in time. Maybe we take a vote. I've been told by DPW, all we gotta do is, if it doesn't work out, we repaint the lanes. Simple, you just repaint the lanes.
It's just paint.
It's just paint.
Said, yeah.
Yeah, that was the quote, I believe, yeah. So, Councilor Chines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of points. I said when we voted on this before in terms of putting up the flex poles this winter, that to my mind, I would defer entirely to the DPW as to when to put them up and take them down. To me, it's a weather-dependent question. And so from my perspective, whether they feel that it's appropriate to take them down today because of the weather forecast, whether it's appropriate for them to take them down in 2 weeks, I defer to the folks that actually have to do the work on that one. I do think as we think about this, it's important to separate anecdote from data. And with a 2-week trial, we really don't have data, particularly because we are testing this out at a time when fewer people are walking the lake, fewer people are biking because, again, it's winter. The weather is poor. And so I do think that regardless of what we do with this, we do need to have an extended period of time where the polls are up. I think it is a period of time that needs to happen during a time when people are actually out and about more than they are in late December. And I look forward to seeing them up in the spring and summer so that we can do that test, gather the data, and then come back to this discussion with an informed perspective.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Dombrowski.
I would just say on that, people are out and about. I mean, people are out Christmas shopping, holiday shopping. There's more traffic around town than usual this time of year. So from the vehicular standpoint, how this is impacting that, I think doesn't change. To your point about the mail delivery is like the UPS, is like the Amazon, it's like the FedEx trucks. Those are all the things that the residents, who candidly were never consulted about this, residents along North Ave, I'm seeing many comments from them because they're saying, well, this is how our street operates. We have these things. So I think it's, my point being, I feel we have a safety concern with this. When they come down, I wanted them up just as you did, Chair McLean, for this exact reason, so we could get the feedback. And if Councilor Chines wants to get the feedback too, that's great. But I don't think we should be under any illusions. Like, the weather itself is not driving what the concerns are that have been raised. Bicyclists aren't coming to us and saying, hey, I've got an issue with the bike lane. It's the vehicular traffic that is bearing the brunt of these changes. And that's where the issues lie, be it sunny out and 50 or be it 20 degrees and freezing with rain. It doesn't matter. What the point being that if they're up in the spring, if they're up in the summer, if they're up next fall, inherently the vehicular traffic, which is the only year-round traffic that uses this very limited real estate, mind you, is the one that's impacted by this. And I've also been told, well, people cycle all year. That was that was part of the push for this. Oh, there are cyclists who want to use this all year. Hasn't snowed yet. Hasn't iced over yet. Cyclists could use this. I've yet to see one. I've asked other people, have you seen a cyclist in this lane? The lane has now fundamentally transformed and changed for the negative, North Avenue, and there isn't one damn cyclist in the cyclist lane. Meanwhile, the vehicular traffic, which is going through, and I'd love to see what the traffic counts are, they are going through that daily, and they're bearing the brunt of this. For what purpose? It's like, literally, it's like tying one hand behind your back for no apparent reason, and then complaining that you can't catch a ball. Why? It does not make sense.
Councilor Chines.
I just also want to challenge the premise of the idea that vehicles are bearing the brunt of this. I mean, I drive that stretch. Gosh, it's been 2 weeks. I've probably driven down that road in both directions 20 plus times. I haven't seen any impact on vehicular traffic. Now, I'm not there 24 hours a day, nor are any of the people that observe things, and I think that's exactly my point of anecdote not being data. I think that we have seen some positive data points from people, and I think we've seen some negative data points in people. I don't think that we can make that judgment after 2 weeks. So again, I think we need to test it longer, and I think we need to test it in a season that is going to be more representative of the use that we get.
What is a positive data point we've heard from people?
I've heard from a number of people that bike lanes say they've noticed no impact on vehicular traffic. If anything, it's slowed down some of the speeding cars on the street, which I actually think is a positive. It's a 30-mile-an-hour street, and people are routinely driving 40. I'm much happier with people driving 30, and if that means it's a little slower to get down that stretch, so be it. Again, I've gotten feedback in all directions. It does not point in one direction based on the people that I've talked to.
Counselor Chines.
Thank you, Chair McLean. I just want to make sure I understand you, Councilor Chines. You think that we should assess this longer, but assess it in the springtime?
Yeah.
As opposed to now?
Yeah, again,
Which
from
is
my perspective.
That's my feeling as well.
Yeah. From my perspective right now, we know the flex poles are going to come down at some point because of the weather. To me, that's a DPW decision. I think they go back up when the weather improves in the spring, and I think that's when we have a more valid test over a longer period than just 2 weeks.
Right, so I don't necessarily see the reason to test it longer during December, myself. I mean, we can defer to DPW and say, okay, the first time we have snow, they can go and take them down and they'll be down until next spring, but why are we gonna defer to DPW to make that decision? Why can't we just, I'm willing to vote tonight to take them down immediately, effective today. And then the council can revisit putting them up in the spring so we can test it during a time of the year when it's gonna get more frequent use.
But then the experts don't have as much time to view this, unless you think that winter is just not a good time and it should only be
Well,
tested in the spring.
Well, no, not just in the spring. Like I said, last summer when I voted to put up the flex poles, it was my understanding based on Mr. Renault's conversation with us as to when he thought the flex poles would come in, that they would be up in September, October, and until mid-November. And unfortunately, there was a delay in getting them in. And I do know they came in about a month before they went up, but they still didn't get here until late October, early November. So my feeling is we've tested it for a couple weeks during this time of the year. We should take them down, and then the council can decide whether they want to put them up next spring for additional testing and talk to police and fire, who can talk about this 2-week period of time and whether their recommendations have changed, or what are their recommendations for the future. How long do they want them up in the spring, if at all, so that they can test it? That seems prudent to me. I don't see any discernible reason why they need to stay up now.
I don't see any discernible reason why not for another week or two of experience until the snow flies. That's always been the way I'm looking at it. When the snow flies, take them down. Counselor Carney.
Yeah, 2 points, because this just came out twice that I thought I was misinterpreting. Those came in early and they were sitting in storage for a
Yes.
month?
Because the lane wasn't painted yet.
Well, I still think they could have gone up after the lane was
My second
painted.
point is, do you realize what's gonna happen when you take those poles down? Because you have one thin lane, all right, coming in one direction, and then you've got add a 9 foot to another lane on the right-hand side. And, it's almost like driving down Route 28 when you're going from, well, they have a center lane and you don't. You have to be very, very conscious of where you're driving. Okay, so now in one direction you're gonna have a compact lane. Okay, so now all of a sudden when the mail truck is on the southern side, and a truck comes around it, and I'm driving down the other side. I'm on the right side of the yellow line. Okay, I'm driving down that side, and someone's going to go around that truck at me. I think that's a dangerous situation. I don't think we considered that when we took the vote. I think that's very dangerous. You can't just move the yellow line. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the bottom line with this is the fact that we're saying, well, we can put up in the spring. The issue isn't the usage. The issue. No one's talking about the bike lane piece of it. They're not saying bikers are not saying anything about the bike lane. What I'm referring to is the vehicular traffic. How that's being impacted. That's impacted as much now, if not more so, than it may be at other times in the year. That's a constant. So when I say, when these poles end up getting hit or moved, they end up in blocking vehicular traffic, which then causes cars to go around. You have trucks that are parked that cause cars to go around. So that's what I'm saying. So the time of the year is completely irrelevant for the concerns that I'm raising, because the concerns that I'm raising are related to vehicles that are traveling 365 days a year up and down, north and south on that. That's the issue. So My concern is that these poles generally are dangerous. So I understand what you're saying, Councilman McLean, and I was in agreement with you on relative to let them be up, let people get a sampling of this. I'm glad people are experiencing this. I'm not glad about the experience they're having, but I'm glad that they're able to experience this. So I guess ultimately I don't feel strongly one way or the other relative to whether they come down now or if DPW takes them down, say, in a week's time. But I do feel strongly about them ever going back up again. And I think they should not ever go back up again because they've already, I don't need more data. I've seen what has happened in just 2 weeks' time. I don't need to wait for someone to get into a head-on because one car is going around a pole that is ajar and out of a blocked way. I'm sorry. I'm not going to wait for that to happen. It's already dangerous. That's the problem with these poles.
Well, when we take them down too, then there's a further test. That's a test. Everything is a test. The poles are then down, so you have a little more room, except that if the mail truck stops and somebody comes over and you move into the buffer lane, now you're in the buffer lane, or possibly in the bike lane if you've got lanes that narrow and somebody's 4 feet over the yellow line and you go that away, right now, this time of the year may be less dangerous, maybe, if nobody's in the bike lane. I did see a bicyclist in the bike lane. I saw another guy going on the wrong way on the sidewalk, going southbound, probably because he didn't have a lane on the other side southbound because it's 8 to 12 inches. But I understand what you're saying too. If this is a safety issue, then maybe Councilor Vincent's right. Maybe we should just tell the DPW to take them down now. We can leave it to their discretion with the snow, but we don't always leave things to their discretion. They do what we tell them on occasion. We are the town council, so we could say, take them down tonight, tomorrow, and I'm sure Joe and crew would be happy to do it, and then we can revisit this in a future time, but we'll also watch how those lanes work when the posts are removed for the season, and we'll see what happens there, and I'm sure there'll be less issues. I think there'll be less issues, but we still have that issue of the tight lanes, and do you move into the buffer zone? Do you move, if somebody's coming at you, do you move into the bike lane? And
I mean, respectfully, I don't see how that's different from the issue on any other street that is narrow for 2 lane. I mean, there are plenty of
no,
other
it's not.
streets
But
where
this
you have
street
that
was this street
issue.
was fortunately very
And
different in the
thoroughfare,
past, and there was a lot of wiggle room. There was like there is on Main Street now, unless and until it's changed by future councils and future
And again,
years.
that's where I say, do a longer test and wait for the data.
Well,
But then we also have on southbound on that because we literally have, you said about 8 inches at parts. I don't know where.
it's 8 to 12 inches
It's 8 to 12.
between the Knights of Columbus and the Gas and Light. It's a line that's 8 to 12 inches. It is not a bike lane. It's not even close to a bike lane. It is with that narrow lane. I think it's a death-defying act to bring a bike now southbound from Reading. Everybody has anticipated, as I'm told, and I didn't buy it, that they're going to go the other way around and go all the way down Main Street to get wherever it is that they're going, because they're all apparently going down to downtown from that direction. So many of us live the life of the shortest point is, between two lines is a straight line, and some people may just, because I've seen them in the past, they may want to come down in that southbound lane and come into Wakefield from Reading in that direction. But they're probably on the sidewalk, or they're on the wrong side of the street sidewalk in the future, because there's no room there. It's not safe. We don't have a bike lane on both sides of this road. We could have a share on each side, but that is not the determination of this council. And we could probably have wider lanes and a share on each side, but that is not the determination of this council at present. So if the council feels that we should remove them now for safety reasons, I don't have any problem with that. Is that the collective thinking, Councilor Dombrowski?
I think that coupled with the fact that the southbound, the other point that you're making about that lane getting narrower now, we've not had a snow event yet. When we plow that, as good as our DPW is or our contractors in doing that, there is no place for any sort of snow to go unless you're going onto that sidewalk, which then creates a separate safety issue. And the sidewalk does get used by pedestrians
I've used it.
on the southbound side. In fact, we had an issue with someone crossing at 598 and 600 because we hadn't had the sidewalks done as they should have been. That was some time ago now, about a year I think ago or so. So I think part of this is looking, because we've now contracted this lane southbound, we have no shoulder, and then we have a sidewalk. So we have no margin for error there relative to the snow removal piece of that. I don't know how that's going to operate. candidly. The shoulder was never all that wide going southbound, but it's much more contracted now than it had been. So that's another part. If we're talking about data, I think we should look at that as well going forward, because that's another consequence of shrinking the lanes like this. We don't live in Palm Springs, and so we have these events that create conditions that are unanticipated.
So is there a thought from the council as to whether we take them down now?
Chairman, I move that we remove the bike lane.
Second.
Safety purposes.
We have a motion,
Well, the posts.
yeah, the posts and the pieces
Yeah.
that they're on, I assume, go with them, Steve. So we have a motion seconded. Any further discussion? Councilor Butt?
Sure. So I'm happy to get them down, Steve. I think as this was brought up in matters not anticipated, there wasn't enough time. I would love for at our next meeting, if public safety and DPW actually come and can kind of, there was a lot of anecdotes thrown about. I didn't know the posts were going up, so I'd just love to hear, from as Councilor Vincent said, from the chiefs of how it was during this period. Because I think everyone has their stories, everyone has their perception. I don't know if, your team has reported back to you, Steve. I don't think we need to go into that right now, but I'm happy getting a vote. But I hope that on our January meeting, we can have them come in and kind of relay the data as the experts, because they are the experts, and they can report back to us.
Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Are you abstaining,
I'm
Councilor?
abstaining again. I think that it's something we should defer to the DPW for snow purposes.
Okay, that is 5-0, Sherry with one abstention, Councilor Chines abstaining, and the polls will come down. And I assume, Steve, you will convey.
I will convey.
That sounds lovely.
I was just looking, because I hate snow, that they're calling now for 2 to 3 inches on Friday night or Saturday, so it's.
There you
They
go.
would have been down anyway.
Mr. Chair, I would also request preemptively that we put this back on the agenda for sometime in the March or April timeframe to discuss reinstallation for the spring and summer.
Sure, we will definitely have it back on the agenda, and it sounds like we'll have it, according to Councilor Butt, we should also have it in January as well.
Yeah, I
Relative-
mean,
yeah.
I'm not sure that we would need to have them here in January if we're not taking any action until later.
I'd like to hear from them in January. I was surprised that if it was such a topic and people knew they were going to raise it, it would have been nice to have some of them here today. So I'd like to hear from them on Wednesday. I mean, January. Yeah. Yeah, but we don't need to vote on it. I mean, I don't think we would vote at the January meeting. I would want to hear from them, though.
But again, I would just reiterate my request that this be back on the agenda for
Oh,
discussion.
it will most definitely be on. And to Councilor Butt's comment, people didn't raise it, one person raised it.
Well, I mean, it's also based on events that happened this weekend. Those are
Right,
the tipping
right.
points.
I
so
understand.
not
I'm
exactly.
just saying, I didn't know that it was going to
Right.
come up. Okay, wasn't planned. Alrighty, in which case I believe we are at 14, where I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moving.
Councilor
Second.
Carney, and seconded by Councilor Dombrowski. Councilor Butt, are you?
No,
Okay, you
no
look like-
other matters.
I didn't want to cut you
anticipated?
off. You looked like you were
Oh, okay.
going to.
I didn't know if there was any other matters not anticipated.
Oh, are there any
Apologies.
other matters not anticipated? I will go by the book, and I don't see any. Okay, in which case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilor Carney, you made one. Will you make it again?
I think it was made and seconded. by
Made and
Councilor Cruz.
seconded, okay. Any discussion on moving to adjourn? All those in favor? Opposed? 6-0 on that one. Sherry, thank you all. I am closing this meeting of the Town Council at 8:35 PM.
I think you broke the record for 6-0 votes tonight, too.
We are quite a few.